Hello everyone, good afternoon and happy Thursday. You are listening to Inside the Glass with Rob Leano and Rachel Houston on KAMP Camp Student Radio. This is the one and only radio show at the University of Arizona that provides you the latest and greatest news about the greatest sport on this planet, hockey. We got a lot of stuff planned for you today, a great show. A lot of stuff really. I guess one of the things we're really focusing on still is free agency. More specifically, a single free agent who is still yet to be signed by a single team, and that is 45-year-old NHL legend Jaromir Jagr. What do you think of why he's not on the team right now? There's probably a lot to talk about, but let's just start with that.
Yeah, I don't really understand why he's not signed at this point, because I just checked his point totals and it's not like, I mean, granted, he's not scoring the 100 points he did, back when Pittsburgh won the cup and everything, but it's not like he's a bad player by any essence. And I'm pretty sure the Arizona Coyotes are one team who probably should be signing him, because he got 46 points last season. I'm pretty sure that is higher than pretty much anybody else on that team. So, and I mean, granted, I understand why he's not being signed because of his age and the fact of, yes, you're going to be taking a gamble. And I assume, maybe Jagr just wants a one-year deal. That's not too much of a gamble, but you're still taking the gamble of, hey, I might pay this guy a couple $1 million, like $5 million, let's say, and then he goes and he gets injured, career's over halfway through the season, and now I'm just sort of screwed, and I've lost that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that everyone starts to focus on in terms of that, because really, yes, he is 45, but you see what he, over his entire career, what he's done. I mean, granted, a lot of it was through the Lemieux dominance, and that kind of helped him bring a little bit of fruition to his career, but he's still he's aged quite gracefully. I mean, I think his last contract was a one-year contract worth $4.4 million, somewhere around there.
And I think he definitely earned it.
Yeah,
honestly.
he earns that much money. He deserves that much money, and I think that that's the thing is, are some teams willing to pay that much money again for that gamble? Is because you don't know what 45 going on 46 in I think February is going to do. I know, although one thing, I guess the way to put it, yeah, $4.4 million was his last cap hit. A lot of teams can pay for that still, because a lot of teams have $8-12 million in cap space still.
Right.
With a lot
Except for Toronto.
Except for Toronto, that's a whole other story. I think, Arizona's got plenty of cap space.
Oh yeah, now they got rid of Datsuk. They just signed a couple more guys this offseason, and I think they're barely at the floor. They always have been.
Yeah, and I checked cap friendly. San Jose has got $8-9 million in cap space, partially because one specific guy is no longer there. But
do you want to take the oldest team there that is no longer actually the Detroit Red Wings? I'm pretty sure now the Sharks have the oldest average age. Do you want to go back and make them even older now?
I don't know, but the way of Jagr is, he is he's a point-producing forward, and that's what the Sharks, at least in my opinion, what's what they need.
Right.
Yeah, he is 45, and that might just bring the average age of the Sharks even higher. But
you're getting a lot of production.
You're getting a lot of production. If you look at it, Vlasic. He's not really one of the older guys, but he's signed a 6-year contract with the Sharks, and he's going to be there for quite a long time. Bodker was back and forth on there. He still did a decent amount of production on there, but
I don't know. After
Thornton with his assists though,
that's true.
What did he reach? 1,000 assists earlier this season?
Mm-hmm. So I think going off of sort of you talking about Vlasic's contract, you mentioned contracts earlier. What we mentioned last week was about, are people paying too much money to certain players, and are they offering too long of contracts to people? And I think that's a big holdup for Jagr, because Jagr is one guy who's making his money. I think because one, you're getting a legend, so people are going to be I went to a Florida Panthers game a few years ago just so I could see Jagr. But so you get that, and then you just get, he's actually point producing, he's very effective, all that kind of stuff. But I think because a lot of players, I'm going to knock Ryan Johansson because I'm really not a fan of Ryan Johansson. He got $8 million. when you give people those kind of contracts, people aren't going to be willing then to go take a like, oh, we poured $8 million into Ryan Johansson. We already blew our money there, so now we don't have the money to pay for Jágr.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. Like, a lot of teams are doing that. I know it's like it's just crazy when you think about it. And I'm not really gonna knock Edmonton. Edmonton, they put the money somewhat in the right way. I mean, they put a lot of money on McDavid for an 8-year contract, and a pretty decent amount of money on Draisaitl. They're two of their really young players. Although that much money for that long, that's still technically a gamble because they're still really young. You don't know what might happen later on in their careers.
How much is tied up in Nugent Hopkins too? Because I think he's actually I can't believe he's one of like their couple first-round draft picks that are still there. Because now Taylor Hall's gone, Eberle's gone, wasn't a first overall pick, but Yakupov is gone. We still have Nugent Hopkins. I think there's still quite a bit of money tied up in him. So
yeah, it's just crazy. And if you take this back, let's say compare it to how San Jose distributes their money. Brett Burns is their highest paid player. He gets paid $8 million, and that's deservedly so. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and so it was 8 years, $64 million total, $8 million a year. That's like, yeah, he deserves that. Norris Trophy winner, one of the best offensive defensemen in the league,
if not the best.
If not the best.
I mean, honestly.
And you really. I think teams just really need to slow down in their thinking. They can't really jump the gun just to secure a player by throwing them that much money at that large of a cap hit, because you still got other players. You still got to get more depth. You can't just have stars like what you see in like the NBA or the MLB or the NFL.
Right.
Like you need a full 23 roster in order to actually compete.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you think actually because I think this probably plays a big role into it, that teams are more scared of, like, they need to jump the gun and give players big contracts because of the whole thing that happened with Shea Weber back when he got offered a crap ton of money from Philadelphia, and then Nashville's like, well, we can either lose Ryan Suter or we can lose Shea Weber, and I'm pretty sure both got offered giant sums of money, so they had to pick one or the other. Mm-hmm. So I think our team's now like, oh yeah, I'll just give him McDavid like $15 million, so that way nobody else will come after him. Or is it just, are we almost valuing the players too much and being like, hey, like just saying like, just out of a fear aspect and thinking like, well, I don't want to lose you, so I gotta overpay you like you're worth more.
I think that's part of the reason, like the way you mentioned it. I think it's the other thing is some players are probably also getting a little more greedy, especially if you look at the big three of sports, where you have someone like Steph Curry who's getting paid like $200 million, or
he's getting $40 million a year.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and you have like, just in general, these are massive, like $100 million, $200 million. These are.
Yeah, James Harden's contract. He doesn't even play defense, and he's getting paid like however much money.
It was like a couple $100,000 per game,
mm-hmm.
and like that's crazy.
I'd like to make that money.
About it. Yeah, it's like, you make that much money. That's insane.
Uh-huh.
And hockey players get paid the least among all the 4 major sports, and some of them are fine with it. Some of them is like, we'll do it. But some of them are getting a little bit greedy, and I think that's what's causing a problem with that salary cap, and what's causing the problem for people like legends like Jágr still not to be signed, because the cap hit, the cap money is just not there.
What team do you think is best fit for Jágr? I would still have to say that it would be Arizona, because frankly I know the most about Arizona. I know they have a lot of depth with their young guys. You're going to have Dylan Strome coming up. God, I've had a Dylan Strome jersey for 3 years waiting for him to finally come up, and I think he's finally coming up this year. You're going to have Clayton Keller. You're going to have a bunch of guys up there, and they need that veteran presence.
Yeah, especially since that their oldest veteran is no longer on the team. You need an old guy up there to kind of just guide the team.
You need an old guy who also performs.
Exactly.
Like, you could say, like, Shane Doan's a great leader. Yes, he is. I'm not going to deny that. But you're not going to have the same thing. Like, I always take this away of when I was watching the Epics a few years ago, and it was the Sharks, I think it was the Sharks and the Kings one. I love watching that one. I watch it all the time. So there was the one point when Pavelski, the team was doing really bad in a game. And Pavelski, he wasn't captain yet, but he stepped up and he was like, yo, we need to get everything together. We need to work our butts off. We need to do everything. And he goes out and scores a hat trick in the third period. Like, he not only led the team, but he, like, led by example. And I think that's something every team needs, but especially the Coyotes. And that's what Yager can do. Yager has however many Stanley Cups. He has however many years of experience. He's seen more things than anybody else in the league has.
Yeah, and I think, I totally agree with you on that. The Coyotes definitely, they just need something like that, especially for, like, the young team. They need to see that inspiration from someone, especially, as we mentioned, as legendary as Yager is. He, like you said, he has been through so many different stuff. He's about, what, 3 different decades worth of hockey. Yeah, he's seen it all. He's seen, like, he's even been through what they call it, like, the reverse class era, but that's a whole different story.
Right.
But I mean, hey, that's, like I said, he's been through enough to be that leader figure and to still perform.
Exactly. Yeah, he's got everything you need in a leader. He can perform, and I think his biggest asset is, because I think what a lot of teams have trouble with when making it to, like, the playoffs or, like, making it far in the playoffs is the resilience of being able to have guys step up and of, like, you know what, I'm going to go back to some examples for the Blackhawks here, but sort of like why the Blackhawks have been so successful is because their team understands what it means of, like, when Taves and Kane aren't performing, then Marcus Kruger steps up, Bickle steps up. You have all these different depth guys that step up, and, you know, they make things happen when the big guys won't. And I think that's something that Yager can help teach them, because that is something so impossible to learn until you actually go through it. And I think probably because he's been through it, and if they see him and they're like, he performs well, let's be like him, then if he struggles, they're going to continue to do that.
And where's, like, the place where most of these players learn it, it's when they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, where there's the most pressure, where they really know, I gotta step up, I gotta do something. So many teams have gone through that. You see teams just, they go on a massive deficit, and then all of a sudden something clicks and they just power through the entire freaking playoffs, and they're like, what just happened?
Like, you guys were down 3-0 in the series. How did this all happen? So yeah.
Although that hasn't happened very often.
That's true.
Let's not talk about the most recent time.
Of course not.
But anyways, we have more. So, I think Yager definitely best fit for the Coyotes. Although I did hear a couple stories of some teams interested in him. I didn't really see any names attached to them. It says, teams are interested. I'm like,
I love those stories.
Oh, that's great. What teams? Like,
right, because, like, if I'm a Vancouver fan, I might get my hopes up, and then, like, all of a sudden he's not there.
Although there was a rumor that the Jets might have been interested, but I don't know.
To be fair, I don't really know who's on the Jets besides, like, Blake Wheeler and Patrick Laine, so I can't imagine it'd be a bad addition. Like, because they were pretty good for a year, got swept through the Ducks in the playoffs, and have been, like, under the radar since. I mean, obviously they got the first pick, so...
I think in general, a lot of the Canadian teams have been getting a lot better, except for the Canucks.
The Canucks are going to get better this year, but that's for another topic, because I am so big into the Canucks youth, and I follow, like, a bunch of them, so I'm banking on them doing better, but...
I was saying, not very many people expected the Oilers and the Flames to come out just out of nowhere.
I think I expected the Oilers, but definitely not the Flames. The Flames have done, like, they're just so wishy-washy, it's weird, but...
Yeah, it's weird.
It's good to see them do well, though.
Yeah, but anyways, we're probably going to take our first break for now, and then when we get back, we're going to be talking about an expansion team. If you guys know what we're talking about, you want to stay tuned. We'll be back. And this one.